On December 5th, we have a full moon in the sign of Gemini. And in this video, we're going to go through the general energy so you can know what to expect. And we're also going to dive into each of the zodiac signs. You can use your sun sign or your rising sign so that you can get a little bit more detail about which area of your life this full moon might affect. Keep in mind that the holidays are right around the corner, and if you're looking for a gift to give to one of your loved ones, how about an astrology reading? My books are open. I have about 8 spots available. It's a great gift for people that are into astrology, spirituality, are into also getting to know a little bit more about themselves. You can find the booking link down below. Make sure that you enter your own email address, not the email address of your loved one, because then the surprise will be ruined. They will right away get a notification. So just enter your details, make the payment, and then afterwards we can be in touch about sending the link to your loved one and finding a good date for it. All right, enough talking. Let's jump into this full moon. And I just gotta say, I love the energy of this full moon. Not because it's easy, it's actually probably going to be quite tense. But I love it because the symbolism of it is so rich. So the full moon in Gemini will be all about the ways that we've been overly expressing this Gemini energy. Maybe talking too much. We might see some sort of repercussions come out of that. We might find that we expose too much, and that leads to us messing up a business deal, for example. Another way that we could fall into the shadow sides of this Gemini energy is just being too chaotic and doing too many things, being so busy. But when we reflect back, we take a look at that. We take a look at the fact that we're not really going anywhere. We haven't really made any progress with anything in life. Another common side effect of the shadow side of Gemini is also miscommunication. Just being caught up into too much chaos, and we might find us miscommunicating or others miscommunicating, and therefore missing each other in some way or causing some type of a conflict. And what I love about this full moon is the fact that the sun and the moon are in the decans ruled by Venus and Mars. And this opposition between these two ruling planets almost brings up the question in my head of, have we been doing too many things, acting chaotically, responding to everything that's happening around us, talking too much? Have we been doing that because there's a part of us that has a bit of a people-pleasing tendency? A part of us that wants to keep the peace, keep everybody satisfied, keep the status quo good and going. And this Gemini full moon might highlight that for us. It might show us that we are avoiding slowing down, thinking through things instead of right away responding, because we're afraid people might see that as being selfish. We are afraid that if we slow down, think about what it is that we want, how would we like to respond, what would we like to do in certain situations, we're afraid that that's, again, seen as selfish, or that's going to cause a rift in your relationships. So instead, you might just say yes to everything. You might end up doing everything for your neighbor, for your partner, for your colleagues. And with this full moon, you realize that something there needs to change. And you might also need to adjust the fear that you have of standing up for yourself and being selfish. And I do think this full moon could potentially be a very potent full moon for relationships. And that's because we have Venus and Lilith conjuncting each other during this full moon as well. It shows intensity, it shows passion in our relationships, it shows obsessiveness. So it could be during this full moon that our relationships feel much more amped up. Maybe that's the area of our life that we feel like there's some miscommunication. And again, Mars, we need to set some boundaries and step away from that Venusian quality of wanting to keep the peace. And very, very, very important to mention about this full moon is that it is squaring the south node and the north node, like literally to the exact degree. This shows all of us that we need to step away from any habits, any patterns that we keep repeating in this situation. So if you're doing some journaling, some reflecting around this full moon, maybe a meditation, maybe talking to your therapist during this full moon, this could be a potential good topic to analyze, to think about. What are the habits and the patterns that you keep repeating that are actually not serving you? And instead, what is it that you need to start doing, even though it feels uncomfortable, even though it feels like foreign territory? And for each of the rising signs, which we'll get into in just a moment, I'll go through what that is for each of them. So what is it that you need to let go of, and what is it that you need to step towards? And hopefully that also gives you an idea of the area that you should be thinking of. And I'll just close off on this one note that while this full moon is intense and has the potential to alter our relationships, I do think that the general energy behind it is one of hopefulness, excitement, and optimism. And this is because we have quite a few planets in the sign of Sagittarius. It's a sign ruled by Jupiter. So I don't think that we'll be doing these changes or these reflections in a way that we're sort of like feeling pessimistic or brought down by them, but in the way that we want to make those changes so that we have a better future. We want to adjust our relationships so that we have a stronger, more trusting relationship. So there does seem to be an underlying layer of optimism, hope, feeling lucky, just looking forward to the future. So a good note or a good spin to put on this intense full moon. Let me know down below in the comments if this makes you look forward to the full moon or not. And for now, let's get into each of the rising signs. Aries. This full moon in Gemini might make you realize that you have been living quite a busy, chaotic life, perhaps responding to the needs of your siblings, your neighbors, maybe the things happening in your local community, and that's been taking up all of your time. And you haven't had proper time to reflect, to remove yourself from situations, to reflect on what it is that you want to do, what is it that you want to focus on. And remember, in the general horoscope, we talked about the south and the north node, what we need to step away from and what we need to start doing instead. And for you specifically, Aries, this full moon shows us that you need to step away from the hustle, the grind of your everyday routine. It's okay if you go hungry for a little bit. Try to prioritize during your full moon your inner state. Take some alone time, prioritize getting a clear head, feeling good in your body before you get drawn back into the day-to-day routine of the laundry needs to get done or the house needs to get cleaned or whatever. You need to make breakfast or lunch. Taurus. This full moon is all about your finances, and you might find yourself realizing that you've been acting quite chaotically with your finances. You've been spending here and there. You've just been reacting. You know, you get a bill in the mail and like, okay, I just pay it, I guess. You haven't been slowing down to question things. You haven't been making calls to ask, why did my bill go up by $100 this month? You haven't been also prioritizing with your finances so that you can actually achieve some goals that you might have or achieve a certain financial stability that you're after. And remember, with the general horoscope, we talked about the north and the south node, or these energies that we need to step away from and the ones that we need to step towards. And for you, the north and the south node are showing us that you need to step away from this feeling of, I need it now, this feeling of instant gratification, this feeling of, I need to treat myself. I had a hard day. I just have to order in. and to instead challenge yourself to delay gratification and to keep in mind the longer term goals you're working towards. Whether that is financial or something else is, of course, a welcome goal as well. Geminis, this is a full moon in your sign, in your first house. So you might find, especially if you have a sun or an ascendant at those middle degrees of Gemini, you might find this a very, very intense full moon. Specifically, what it might bring up for you is your changing identity and how, depending on which group you are with, you tend to act in a different way. With one group, you're outgoing and a big drinker. With another group, you're the most spiritual, boring person ever. With another group, you are super career-oriented and maybe a little bit sly. You will do anything to get your goals achieved. And you might find that this is quite chaotic, and it's harming you in the sense that you feel like you're losing a sense of identity, you're losing a sense of who it is that you actually are and what you stand for. And remember, in the general horoscope Gemini, we talked about the North Node and the South Node, what you need to start doing and the habits or patterns that you need to stop doing. And for you specifically, what the South Node and the North Node are telling us is that you need to step away from overanalyzing, overthinking, yeah, but who am I? Where do I come from? But is that really who I am? Or is that what my parents taught me I should be, or society taught me I should be? Probably what's going to be most productive for you around this full moon is to focus on the contribution that you can bring to the world. And you might find that by focusing on what it is that you can give and provide, how it is that you can serve humanity, you might find that that helps you a lot more in determining your true identity and who you really are. Cancer, this full moon will bring up for you the ways that you've been chaotic with your spiritual life, how maybe your inner world has been quite chaotic. Maybe you have been changing up the ways that you express this side of you. One month you throw yourself into meditation, the next month you throw yourself into volunteering, the next month you signed up for a religious course, etc., etc. And you might find that this is coming at an expense of your body and your physical health. You are finding yourself being blown about the wind with all of these ideas, maybe escaping reality and responsibility, and that might be, again, having an effect on your day-to-day routine. Maybe you're having a hard time keeping up with responsibilities. And what could really help you with this Cancer is to step away from your local environment. You might find that it's really, your local surroundings, it's your neighbors, your siblings that are really influencing you to act in this way. And instead, what could really help you is take a little trip. Distance yourself physically from the situations or the environment you're in, if you can, of course. And you might find that that already helps you a long way, reminds you to ground yourself in your body and the needs that your body has. Leo, this full moon in Gemini might make you realize that you have 10,000 goals and you haven't made much progress on any of them. You are so stretched thin, working on 50 different things, having 50 different ambitions, and because of that, you can only give limited time to each of them, and actually you're not making great progress on any of them. What you might also be forgetting, or what might be the cost of this focus on the future and your ambitions, Leo, is that you're just not enjoying the present moment. You are forgetting that the only moment we have promised is right now. Not to get morbid, but we might not get to wake up tomorrow. And what could really help you with this, Leo, if you remember in the general horoscope, we talked about the South Node and the North Node, stepping away from patterns and habits and trying out something new. That for you in the astrology chart, Leo, is stepping away from your independence, trying to do everything yourself, relying on yourself, and to instead try and be vulnerable and open for once. And you might find that if you open up to somebody about the fact that you have a certain ambition or certain goal, that they might end up helping you, or that you're struggling to enjoy the present moment, that they might help you with that. They might pull you out of that working session, pull you away from your computer and say, let's go dancing. Don't underestimate the power that others can have on your life and how they might help you. You don't need to do everything yourself, Leo. Virgo. This full moon is all about your career, and you might find yourself doing 10,000 different things. Maybe you're picking up different jobs, different roles within your work. Maybe even you're just responsible for 50 different projects. But because you're spread so thin, none of them are going very well, or because you are so busy at work, you don't actually have time to take care of yourself. What will help you during this time, Virgo, if you remember in the general horoscope, we talked about the North and the South node. That for you is stepping away from this tendency to, I'll just do it myself because I know how to do it best myself. Like when others help me, when others do it, it never works very well. It's never the way I want it. And this is the tendency or the habit that you need to step away from during this full moon, Virgo. And instead, you need to, no matter how uncomfortable it feels, you need to learn to work with others and to be compassionate towards others, even if they're not doing something as perfectly as you would like them to. You might find that in your career, this helps you quite a bit. So do things with others, share the project with others, ask for some help and some contribution from others. Libra, this is quite an interesting full moon for you because it almost is like you've been traveling way too much. You've been, just like hopping from place to place. And perhaps you find around this full moon that you start to see the consequences of that. You start to realize that your life has ended up quite chaotic. You start to realize that there is no rhyme or reason for what you're doing. And you might find that you're underestimating where you come from and the local surroundings. You might somehow think that that it's another place somewhere that's going to give you the meaning or the purpose that you're looking for. And what could really help you with this, Libra, is to stop trying to escape. Stop trying to find better situations than the reality you've been put in. Stop trying to find better friends or a better life than the one you've been given. And instead, drop down to the simplicity of a day-to-day routine. Drop down to the responsibilities that we have just as human beings on this earth. Simple things such as, okay, I just need to make sure I sleep. I need to make sure I eat. I need to make sure I, work out. If you drop into those physical responsibilities, you might find that it's making it a lot easier for you to accept your, where you come from and what you've already been given instead of trying to find something new, something better out there. Scorpio, this full moon takes place in your 8th house, which could prove to be quite intense. You might find yourself in some vulnerable situations where you need to take care of others. You need to be there for others. It could be that somebody has experienced a death or a really difficult moment, an intense moment, and you need to be there for them, to take care of them, to help them through that process. It could be that you are also financially helping somebody, that you are lending them money. However, what you might find with this full moon is that you're starting to realize that that's pulling away from your own ability to take care of yourself. It's pulling you away from having a stable, boring, sustainable life for yourself. So it's a balance that needs to be found there again. And what could really help you during this time, Scorpio, is looking at what the North and the South node are telling us right now. And for your chart, the South node is telling us that you need to step away from this tendency of always planning for the future, always being considerate of, this is where I want to go. So if I do that, if I want that, I should show up for this person, or I should show up for this responsibility. What could really help you during this full moon and this emotionally intense time, Scorpio, is to give yourself some immediate pleasures, some instant gratification. It could be as simple as treating yourself to a cup of coffee, to a massage, maybe even, just taking out an evening to do one of your hobbies, painting, coloring, dancing. Don't underestimate the power of introducing some pleasure and joy into your life. Sagittarius, this full moon is all about your relationships. And you might find that there's a lot happening with your relationships, with your partner. If you're not in a relationship, it could be that like a really close friend is asking a lot from you. You are being blown about the wind, catering to them, and perhaps forgetting who you are, forgetting to literally take care of your appearance. You are showing up to places, maybe not looking your best. What could help you with this Sagittarius is to address the motivations behind this. Why is it that you're putting others ahead of yourself? Maybe even bringing this up in therapy, if that's a practice that you subscribe through, or reflecting on it with your journaling, with your meditation, really focusing on your inner world and where this tendency is coming from. Capricorn, this full moon might help you realize that you've been so busy with your routine, with exercising, sleeping, subscribing through that latest diet that everybody's recommending, that you've actually forgotten to take care of your inner world and your mental state. You might have forgotten the power of spirituality, being grounded, having a calm nervous system. Those are things that might not have a literal, physical effect on what you see, but they do have a very strong effect on our bodies. And what could really help you with this is to drop the countless resources that you're like, well, I need to study this and I need to read this because I need to figure out what is the latest science on diet and exercise and what's the best thing to do here. And instead focus simply on getting the answers closer to home. Focus on what it is that your local surroundings, those closest to you, like your siblings or your neighbors, can provide for you in this situation. The answer might be closer to home than you might think. Aquarius, this full moon might make you go a bit overboard with instant gratification, pleasure, joy, fun. You might realize that you've been overdoing it in that area and perhaps lacking a greater vision of where you're going towards. Perhaps you've been so busy dancing, going to parties, doing your hobbies, that you've actually haven't spent any time working on your future goals. And what could really help you with this, Aquarius, is to stop with the intensity, stop trying to look for deep, meaningful, intense, life-changing experiences, and admit to yourself that sometimes life needs to be boring. Sometimes life just needs to be stable. Sometimes life just needs to be very, very average. You might find that even though that feels so uncomfortable for you, Aquarius, you might find that that really helps you during this full moon, helps you find that balance again between living your best life now versus planning for the future. Pisces, this full moon might bring some chaos into your family or into your home. Perhaps you are going through some renovations and there's just chaos in your home. Or perhaps there are some things happening with your family that are blowing you about like the wind. So much so that you feel like you are unable to contribute meaningfully to your work. You're not able to contribute meaningfully to the rest of society because of it. And what could really help you with this, Pisces, if you remember, we talked about the North and the South node in the general horoscope. For you in your chart, the North and the South node ask you to step away from always worrying about your relationships, always putting others first, and step more into your own needs, be selfish for once. And you might find that this is especially applicable during this full moon because of everything that your family is asking from you at this time. So that is the general energy and the rising sign horoscopes for this Gemini full moon. I gotta say, I'm looking forward to it, even though it's quite an intense one. It sounds like such a yummy energy to be thinking about. And I think it can be quite fruitful for all of us, especially because I gotta say, the majority of us do not have a very healthy balance with the air energy, especially the energy of Gemini. I think a lot of us are overdoing it and trying to do 50,000 things at once. But I hope this horoscope helps you, gives you a bit more clarity as to what you might expect. Let me know down in the comments if you have any questions or anything you want to dive into, and I'll be happy to expand by responding back to your comment. Thanks for joining me. Happy full moon, and I hope to see you again soon.